The night is always honest with people who are quietly in love. Because when the world finally turns silent and all distractions fade away, when no one is there to witness the way they hold themselves together anymore, the truth they hide during the day slowly rises to the surface without permission. And somewhere tonight, while you are trying to move on, trying to keep yourself occupied, trying to convince your own mind that certain emotions are only imagination, someone younger than you is thinking about you again. Not in a passing or casual way, but in a way that keeps coming back no matter how much they try to suppress it or push it away. They replay your voice inside their mind more often than they would ever admit to anyone. They remember small details about you that other people completely miss and never notice at all. If you want to understand the full truth about why someone younger keeps thinking about you every night, then engage with this right now. The way your energy shifts when you are tired, the way your silence feels heavier than your spoken words, the unusual calm presence you carry even when something inside you feels like it is breaking quietly. And what confuses them the most is that they never expected to feel such a deep connection towards someone like you, especially someone who seems to understand people so easily just by observing them. Because this connection never started from surface-level attraction, and that is exactly why it continues to linger in their mind at night. There is something emotionally intense and almost unsettling about being understood by someone who carries emotional maturity. Many younger souls do not even realize how emotionally deprived they are until they encounter a person who naturally carries depth without forcing it. Most people they met before were loud, performative, inconsistent with emotions, chasing attention, or afraid of real closeness. But then they encountered you, and something inside them became unusually quiet for the first time in a long while. Not because you were perfect, but because your presence felt real in a way they could not ignore. And realness is something extremely rare in the world they live in. The strange part is that they probably never intended to fall into this emotional pull. In fact, part of them resisted it strongly in the beginning. They may have pulled away at times, acted distant, cold, unavailable, or confusing on purpose. But emotional distance does not always mean emotional absence. Sometimes it simply means the feelings became too strong to understand or control, especially for someone younger who is still learning how to navigate their own emotional world. You need to understand something important about human psychology here. People are not haunted by connections that feel simple and easy. They are haunted by the ones that awaken something unresolved inside them, and you awaken something within this person that they were not emotionally prepared to face. Maybe it was your calm, emotional presence that pulled them in. Maybe it was the hidden sadness behind your eyes that you never fully explained to anyone. Comment Jung if you have ever experienced someone younger becoming emotionally attached like this. Maybe it was the unusual combination of strength and quiet pain that you carry without complaint. Or maybe it was the way they felt emotionally exposed around you without even trying. That feeling can be frightening for them, because younger people often mistake emotional intensity for temporary excitement that fades quickly. But what they feel for you is not that. This is not the loud kind of attraction that disappears after a short time. This is the quiet kind, the deeper kind, the one that slowly settles into their subconscious until your presence starts appearing in their everyday thoughts without warning. They think about you late at night, when everything is calm and the world feels still. They think about you in crowded places, when everyone around suddenly feels emotionally distant. They think about you while speaking to someone attractive, but still comparing the feeling to what they experienced with you. And sometimes they feel frustrated with themselves because no matter how much they try to move forward emotionally, your presence keeps returning again and again. Carl Jung once explored something deeply unsettling about human attachment. People are often drawn toward those who activate hidden parts of their unconscious mind, and age does not always matter when it comes to emotional gravity. A younger person can become deeply drawn to someone older because that person represents emotional safety, grounding, wisdom, mystery, healing, or depth that they have been unconsciously searching for. But this is where it becomes complicated for them. They may not even understand how to express what they feel in a clear way. Their emotions come out indirectly, inconsistently, through lingering looks, subtle jealousy they try to deny, sudden silence, unexpected returns after distance, quietly watching your social media without interacting, or remembering things you once said casually without realizing it mattered to them. Because what they feel exists deeper than language can easily explain. And every night, when their defenses weaken, the same truth returns again without fail. There is another reason this emotional attachment grows stronger over time. Type yes if you want to uncover the hidden psychological reasons behind their thoughts at night. You likely did not chase them emotionally like others may have done before. You did not force your way into their life or demand attention. You did not depend on them for validation, and strangely, emotional self-control creates fascination in people who are used to emotional chaos. Your restraint made them curious. Your silence made them wonder. Your depth made them feel both safe and exposed at the same time. And that kind of exposure becomes addictive for someone who has spent a long time hiding their emotions from the world. What hurts the most for them is realizing that you influence them emotionally without even trying to. That is what keeps their thoughts active at night. Because accidental emotional impact often holds more power than intentional attraction ever could. You reached parts of them that no one else managed to reach before. And even now, when they try to distract themselves with other people, conversations, temporary attention, work, or entertainment, something inside them keeps returning to you again. It happens without warning. A song reminds them of your presence. A random phrase brings back something you once said. A moment of loneliness suddenly brings your face into their mind without explanation. And during those quiet night hours, when honesty becomes unavoidable, they finally admit something they rarely say out loud. No one has ever made me feel the way this person made me feel. That realization changes people deeply, especially younger souls who are still trying to understand the difference between attraction and emotional connection. Because attraction only excites the surface for a short time, but emotional recognition touches something much deeper and longer lasting. And once someone experiences that kind of recognition with you, ordinary connections begin to feel incomplete afterward. This is why they think about you before falling asleep each night, not simply because of infatuation, but because a part of their inner world became attached to your presence in a way they cannot easily undo. And perhaps the most painful part is that they may never openly admit it. Younger people often fear vulnerability more than loneliness itself. They fear rejection, embarrassment, and losing control of their emotions. They fear being seen as weak or exposed. So instead of speaking openly, they remain silent for long periods of time. But silence does not remove attachment. It strengthens it. The human mind becomes fixated on what it cannot resolve, and unresolved emotional tension grows strongest at night when there are no distractions left. That is why they replay conversations in their head again and again. That is why they imagine scenarios where they finally confess everything without holding back. That is why they wonder if you feel the same connection in some quiet way too. And if you are reading this right now, and feel something strange in your chest, there is a reason for it. Part of you already sensed it. Intuition is often the subconscious recognizing emotional signals before logic can explain them. Sometimes you feel drawn to someone without knowing why. Sometimes you think of them at the exact moment they are thinking of you. Sometimes their emotional presence stays with you even when physical distance separates you. Human beings are far more emotionally connected beneath the surface than most realize, especially when feelings remain unspoken for too long. And there is still another hidden truth that most people never talk about in everyday life. Younger people are often emotionally drawn toward older souls because older souls carry emotional scars that quietly radiate wisdom, depth, and quiet strength. Pain changes people in very profound ways over long periods of time. Loneliness also reshapes a person deeply. Emotional survival over years changes people in permanent ways in many cases. And when someone younger meets a person who has gone through deep suffering but still stayed emotionally kind, it affects them in a powerful and lasting way. Because kindness after pain feels sacred, rare, and almost unreal to them. Comment if this feels like someone younger is silently thinking about you, or even emotionally attached in a quiet way. Maybe they sense how much you hide emotionally from the outside world. Maybe they notice the loneliness you never openly talk about with anyone. Maybe they can recognize that behind your strength, there is exhaustion that you carry in silence every day. And strangely, instead of pushing them away, it pulls them closer in unexpected and confusing ways. Not in a surface-level attraction, but in a deeper soul recognition feeling that seems real and unexplainable. That is why they cannot stop thinking about you at night, when everything becomes still and quiet. Because your existence emotionally interrupted their normal patterns of thinking and feeling in life. You became emotionally meaningful in a world where most things feel temporary, shallow, or easily replaceable. And once someone emotionally meaningful enters a person's subconscious mind, forgetting them becomes almost impossible over time. Still, this connection may confuse you because sometimes they appear emotionally distant right after becoming emotionally close. Sometimes their actions contradict their feelings without any clear reason. Sometimes their silence feels painfully loud, heavy, and confusing to you. And this contradiction can make you question yourself emotionally in difficult moments. You may even wonder whether you imagined the connection entirely, but you did not. It is real in its own way. Emotionally immature people often retreat when feelings start becoming too real for them. Especially younger individuals who have not yet learned how to hold emotional intensity without running away from it quickly. They fear becoming vulnerable because vulnerability removes emotional control, and control feels safe to them. But love was never meant to feel completely safe all the time. Real emotional attachment destabilizes the ego in many different ways. It forces people to confront abandonment wounds, insecurity, fear of rejection, and fear of not being enough. It brings hidden emotional needs they have spent years suppressing to the surface without warning. That is why deep connections often create confusion instead of clarity in the early stages. And every night, this younger person keeps fighting that inner emotional battle silently within themselves. Part of them wants to forget you completely. Part of them cannot let go at all. Part of them wants emotional freedom again. And part of them secretly hopes you still think about them too, in quiet moments of your own life. And maybe the reason this story feels painfully personal to you right now is because you have experienced emotional invisibility for a long time in your life. Maybe people admired you on the surface, but never truly understood your emotional depth or your internal struggles. Maybe you learned to hide your feelings because life taught you that vulnerability could become dangerous in certain situations. Maybe you became emotionally independent, not because you wanted to, but because disappointment repeatedly forced you to build emotional walls around yourself. That kind of emotional loneliness changes a person quietly over the years, without anyone noticing. It teaches you how to survive without emotional reassurance from others. It teaches you how to stay calm while internally carrying pain that no one sees. It teaches you how to hold entire emotional storms behind a composed face every single day. And strangely, the younger person thinking about you every night senses that hidden sadness inside you instinctively, without needing words. That is why their attachment feels deeper than logic can easily explain. Because emotionally, they are not only drawn to your appearance or personality traits, they are drawn toward your emotional energy and inner strength. They are drawn toward the parts of you that survived pain without becoming cruel or closed off to others. They are drawn toward the emotional intelligence you developed through suffering, challenges, and life experiences. Share this message so others can understand this deep emotional pull from a younger soul. Comment, "Awakened," if you felt this strange emotional connection with someone younger in your own life. They are drawn toward the calmness you carry after disappointment and hardship. They are drawn toward the warmth you still manage to offer, despite everything life has done to your heart over time. That kind of energy becomes unforgettable, especially in a generation that is emotionally exhausted by superficiality and fake connections. And perhaps this younger person does not fully understand yet that what they are feeling is not weakness at all. It is awakening within their soul. You awakened emotional depth inside them in a powerful way. You forced them to confront feelings they previously avoided for a long time. You made them realize that emotional intimacy is far more powerful than temporary excitement could ever be. And once someone experiences that realization, ordinary attraction stops satisfying them in the same emotional way. That is why they keep returning mentally to you at night when the world becomes quiet again, because your connection became emotionally symbolic in their subconscious mind. You now represent something deeper inside them, like safety, meaning, emotional truth, vulnerability, healing, longing, stability, desire, and understanding all at once. And symbols become psychologically powerful because the human mind attaches emotional meaning to them beyond logic or explanation. Sometimes they may stare at your photos longer than they should, without even realizing it. Sometimes they type messages and delete them again and again before sending. Sometimes they wonder whether reaching out would change everything between you. And sometimes they simply lie awake in silence, missing someone they are not even sure fully belongs to them. That kind of emotional ache is difficult to escape once it begins. But there is something you must never do after hearing this message. Do not reduce your worth by chasing emotional certainty from someone who is emotionally confused right now. Even if they think about you every night, and even if their feelings are real, emotional truth still requires emotional courage from them. And courage cannot be forced onto anyone. People must become ready to face their own hearts honestly when the time comes. Your role is not to rescue emotionally unavailable people from their inner struggles. Your role is to stay aligned with your own emotional worth and value, because deep down, you already know something important about real connections. Real love should not require you to abandon yourself emotionally in any way. The right connection will eventually move toward honesty instead of endless confusion and doubt. It will move toward emotional clarity instead of constant guessing. It will move toward vulnerability instead of permanent emotional hiding. Still, some connections take time to mature, especially when one soul is still emotionally growing and learning through life experiences. And maybe tonight, while you are listening to these words, that younger person is staring into darkness somewhere, replaying memories of you again and again, wondering whether you sense their feelings clearly, wondering whether your silence means disinterest or emotional caution, wondering whether fate placed you in their life for a reason larger than temporary attraction alone. Because certain people enter our lives not just to entertain us, but to transform us emotionally in lasting ways. You may never fully realize how deeply you changed them through your presence, how much emotional healing your existence accidentally created for them, how many nights your memory became both comfort and pain at the same time, how often your presence quietly pulled them back from emotional emptiness they could not explain. And maybe that is the real reason they think about you every night without fail. Not because you are perfect, or because they are manipulated emotionally, not because they are weak, but because something inside them finally felt emotionally understood when they met you. And human beings never easily forget the people who make them feel truly seen and emotionally valued. So, if this message found you tonight at exactly the right moment, do not ignore the strange emotional recognition inside your chest. Some connections arrive quietly without labels, without perfect timing, and without easy explanations. yet they still leave permanent emotional fingerprints on the soul that remain for a long time. Protect your heart always. Trust your intuition fully, and never underestimate the emotional impact your presence carries in this world. Because somewhere tonight, while the world sleeps, someone younger is still thinking about you. Type seen if this message is hitting you harder than you expected tonight. They are still fighting feelings they cannot fully explain to themselves. They are still carrying your energy through the silence of another restless night. And perhaps one day, when fear finally loses against emotional truth, they will stop hiding what their heart has been trying to say all along. Until then, let silence speak in its own way. And if these words felt strangely personal, if they touch something hidden inside you that you could never fully explain, then you already understand this journey deeper than most people ever will in their lives. Stay close to this kind of understanding, because some emotional truths cannot always be spoken loudly. They must be felt slowly in silence, one realization at a time over days and nights. And somewhere in the next story, you may discover another hidden part of yourself, waiting to finally be understood in a deeper way.